If people cannot feel your words, they will never truly follow your voice. That truth sits at the heart of communication, and once you understand it, everything changes. Most people speak for the sake of being heard. They raise their volume, they increase their speed, they throw words into the air, hoping someone will catch them. But leaders communicate differently. Leaders do not speak simply to fill the silence. Leaders speak to be remembered. Their goal is not noise but impact, not attention but influence. And the difference between the two is not in how loud they are or how dramatic they sound. The difference lies in precision, in clarity, in strength, and in timing. A leader's words carry weight because they are chosen carefully, delivered intentionally, and backed by conviction. If your voice is not respected, your ideas will not matter, no matter how good they are. If your words lack strength, your presence will fail to inspire. Respect is not earned by shouting. It is earned by speaking in such a way that people cannot help but take notice. The truth is, the world does not reward noise. The world rewards clarity. It rewards steadiness. It rewards the voice that cuts through confusion and speaks directly to the heart and the mind. You do not need big, complicated words to achieve this. You do not need to impress anyone with fancy vocabulary. What you need are strong words, words that are simple, sharp, and filled with meaning. The ability to speak less but say more is what separates leaders from followers. The world is full of people who talk endlessly but say nothing. But those who learn to talk better, not longer, become the ones who guide others, inspire action, and leave legacies behind. When you begin this journey of finding your voice, you realize quickly that leadership in communication does not start someday in the future. It begins now in your everyday conversations, in the way you handle pressure, in the way you speak when others are unsure. Communication is not only a skill for special occasions. It is the constant practice of speaking with intent, of guiding with words, of leading with presence. And if your words do not lead, nothing else will. You may work hard. You may dream big. You may even achieve certain successes. But without the ability to speak in a way that others feel and follow, your influence will always remain limited. That is why finding your voice, strengthening it, and shaping it into a tool of leadership is one of the most important investments you can make in yourself. It all begins with confidence. Confidence is not loudness. Confidence is not arrogance. Confidence is not showing off with your words. Real confidence comes when you own every word you speak. Every time you open your mouth, you are making a choice. Will you speak like your words matter, or will you allow them to slip away as empty sounds? Too many people weaken their voice before they even begin. They say, I think, maybe, I guess. I'm not sure, and in doing so, they give away their power. These words may sound polite, but they reveal hesitation, and hesitation destroys leadership. Nobody follows someone who sounds unsure of themselves. Nobody is inspired by a voice that doubts its own message. If you cannot believe in your own words, why should anyone else believe in them? Owning your words means standing behind them fully. It means speaking in such a way that people feel your seriousness. They sense that your words are not just noise, not just an opinion tossed into the air, but a reflection of who you are and what you stand for. This kind of confidence comes from preparation, from clarity, and from alignment. When you know what you are talking about, when you have reflected and prepared, when your actions match your words, your confidence becomes unshakable. Leaders prepare before they speak. They think deeply about what matters. They sharpen their ideas. They live in alignment with their message. That is why when they speak, their words carry power. But confidence also requires courage. The courage to speak your truth even when others may not agree. The courage to stop apologizing for your perspective. The courage to stop shrinking your voice just to make others comfortable. Too often people water down their message because they want to be liked. They soften their words because they fear rejection. But leadership is not about being liked. Leadership is about being clear. It is about speaking what matters even if not everyone agrees. You do not have to be rude. You do not have to be aggressive. But you do have to be firm. You have to be real. and that means standing by your truth without apology. When you do this, your presence changes. You no longer speak like you are guessing. You no longer sound as though you are hoping people will accept your words. Instead, you sound grounded. You sound certain. People feel it in your tone, in your steadiness, in your pauses. You do not rush through your words. You do not scramble to fill every silence. You let your words land. You let them breathe. You trust that silence can be powerful. Weak speakers fear silence because they are afraid people will lose interest. Strong communicators embrace silence because they know silence gives weight to their message. To speak like a leader, you must also strip away the unnecessary. Too many people ramble when they speak. They use 10 words when 5 would do. They pile on explanations, trying to sound impressive, but only creating confusion. A leader does not waste words. A leader speaks directly, with purpose, with clarity. The power of your communication lies not in how much you say, but in how clearly you say it. Clear words create trust. Confusing words create doubt. If people leave your conversation unclear about what you meant, that is not their failure, it is yours. Clarity requires discipline. It requires slowing down, thinking before you speak, and stripping away all the fluff. It requires choosing words that people can actually understand instead of trying to prove how intelligent you are. The most intelligent communicators are not those who sound complicated, but those who can make complicated ideas sound simple. Simplicity is strength. If you can take a large idea and explain it in a few strong sentences, you are already leading. Because leadership is about connection, not confusion. Your tone is equally important. Words are only half of communication. The way you deliver them, the energy, the tone, the pace, the emotion, decides whether they land or fade away. You can say the right words with the wrong tone and they will fail. Or you can say something simple with the right tone and it will hit with force. Tone is your attitude made audible. If your tone is scattered, uncertain, or weak, people will feel it instantly. That is why you must train your tone to match your message. If you are serious, sound serious. If you are hopeful, sound hopeful. If you are firm, sound firm. Do not send mixed signals. People trust voices that align their tone with their message. Another part of clarity is focus. Too many people try to say everything at once. They rush through all their ideas, afraid to leave something out. But leadership communication is not about giving people everything. It is about giving them the right thing. Choose one point. Make it clear. Build around it. Give people time to absorb it. Repetition can help, but not endless repetition. State your main point once with certainty, then reinforce it with strength. Not in circles, not in loops, but in a straight line. People follow voices that lead them forward, not voices that wander aimlessly. Your body language is also part of your message. People do not just listen with their ears. They read you with their eyes. If your words say one thing but your posture says another, people will believe your body, not your words. Stand tall. Face the person. Be present. Show in your stance and your expression that you mean what you say. The alignment between your words, tone, and body is what makes your message undeniable. And this is not something you develop only in big moments. You do not wait for a speech, a presentation, or a crisis to sharpen your voice. You train it daily. Every conversation is an opportunity to practice. Every question you answer is a chance to practice clarity. Every discussion is a rehearsal for leadership. That is how confidence and clarity are built, not in one dramatic moment, but in countless small ones. Leaders sharpen their message not by chance, but by discipline. Your voice, when trained, becomes more than sound. It becomes presence. It becomes energy. It becomes a reflection of your inner world. If your inner world is scattered, your voice will be scattered. If your inner world is calm, your voice will be calm. If you are filled with doubt, people will hear it. If you are filled with conviction, they will feel it. You cannot hide your inner state because your voice reveals it. That is why leadership, communication requires you to not only train your words, but to discipline your inner world. Control your voice before you attempt to lead anyone else. This does not mean suppressing your feelings or pretending to be perfect. It means mastering your emotional state so your voice does not betray you. Nervous energy, shallow breathing, and rushed talking all weaken your presence. But when you slow your breath, when you ground yourself, when you steady your tone, people feel safe with you. They sense that you are not about to panic, not about to snap, not about to lose yourself in emotion. You are steady, and that steadiness builds trust. Trust is the foundation of leadership, and trust is built or broken in the way you use your voice every single day. People are not only asking, "What are you saying?" They are also asking, "Can I trust this person? Do they mean what they say? Are they in control of themselves?" That trust is either strengthened or destroyed with every word, every tone, every pause. Leadership is not about talking more than others. It is about talking with meaning, with steadiness, with purpose. When you train your voice, you learn not to speak out of impulse. You learn to pause. You learn to think. You learn to listen. You discover that often the most powerful thing you can do is say less, but make it count. Great leaders are not remembered for saying everything. They are remembered for saying the right thing at the right time. Leadership with your voice is not about domination. It is about direction. Many people think that in order to be heard, they need to be the loudest in the room. But loudness often hides insecurity. True leadership shows up in the calm, grounded tone that communicates certainty without shouting. When you speak with that balance, people don't feel forced to listen. They feel drawn to listen. They sense the difference between someone demanding attention and someone deserving attention, and people naturally give their attention to the latter. Your words should never be used as weapons of ego, but as tools of clarity. Too many waste their voice trying to prove their intelligence, trying to win arguments, trying to be right. But leadership is not about winning every argument. It is about creating direction. If your words leave others defensive, confused, or disengaged, then your communication has failed, even if technically you were right. The purpose of a leader's voice is not to show off, but to guide. A true communicator uses words to bring people forward, not to leave them behind. Think about the people who have inspired you the most. Chances are it wasn't because they used complicated vocabulary. It wasn't because they spoke the longest or filled the room with the most noise. It was because their words felt alive. They spoke directly. They spoke with conviction. They spoke in a way that made you feel, not just think. That is the power you must aim for. The goal is not simply to be understood. The goal is to be felt, because people follow not only logic but energy, not only clarity but presence. Presence is the invisible quality that comes through your voice when your inner world is aligned. When you are scattered, people sense it. When you are grounded, they feel that too. Presence is built by slowing down internally, by connecting your voice to your breath, by letting your words come from a place of stability. It is why people trust leaders who stay calm under pressure. Anyone can speak confidently when things are easy. But when the room is tense, when emotions are high, when everyone else is anxious, the leader's calm voice becomes a signal of safety. It says, "We are not lost. We are not without direction. I am steady, and you can be steady too." That is influence. And here's a truth many overlook. Control of your voice begins with control of your breathing. Most people underestimate this, but rushed breathing creates shallow, rushed speaking. Nervous speakers talk too fast, stumble over words, and lose impact because their breath is weak. But when you breathe deeply and steadily, your voice naturally slows down. It deepens. It becomes stronger, calmer, more assured. You don't have to force it. Your breath carries your voice with stability, and people feel that steadiness. That is why before important conversations, before meetings, before moments where you must lead with your words, you should pause and breathe. Collect yourself. Center yourself, slow down. That few seconds of grounding can change everything about the way your voice comes across. And people will notice. They may not consciously think about your breathing, but they will feel the difference in your presence. Your voice also requires discipline and timing. Some people talk endlessly, afraid that silence means weakness. But silence is often more powerful than sound. A pause can make your words land deeper. A pause can give people time to think, to feel, to reflect. If you rush through your message, people may hear it, but they won't absorb it. If you pause after saying something important, people lean in. They feel the weight of it. They remember it. A strong communicator uses silence like a musician uses rest notes in music. Without them, there is no rhythm, no power, no balance. Equally important is emotional control. If your tone changes wildly depending on your mood, people will not know what to expect from you. That unpredictability creates tension. It makes people hesitant. Leaders cannot afford to let their voice become a roller coaster of mood swings. This does not mean you suppress emotion. Emotion is necessary. Passion inspires. Warmth comforts. Strength commands. But the emotion must be controlled, not chaotic. It must be directed, not explosive. The voice of a leader channels emotion into purpose. Consider anger, for example. If you explode in anger, people may fear you in the moment, but they will lose trust in you long term. But if you channel that anger into a steady, firm, passionate voice, people will feel urgency without feeling threatened. They will feel the seriousness without feeling attacked. That difference is everything. Or think about excitement. If your excitement makes you speed up and ramble, people will get lost. But if your excitement is steady, deliberate, and focused, people will feel inspired. Control is what transforms raw emotion into influence. The discipline of the voice extends into the smallest moments. A leader is not only measured by speeches in front of large crowds, but also by how they communicate in daily life, in one-on-one conversations, in small team meetings, in giving feedback, in conflict resolution. Every word you speak in these moments either builds trust or breaks it. Every tone either strengthens your presence or weakens it. People are always listening, not only to what you say, but to how you say it. They are constantly asking themselves, can I trust this person? Do they mean what they say? Are they steady enough to follow? That is why your voice must become consistent. If you speak confidently one day and doubtfully the next, people will not know who you are. If you sound clear in one setting but scattered in another, people will hesitate to follow you. Consistency in your voice is what builds reputation. Reputation is not built in one moment of greatness. It is built in the accumulation of many moments of steadiness. And that steadiness is what creates reliability. Reliability is a cornerstone of leadership. People may not agree with everything you say, but if they know they can rely on your steadiness, they will trust you. They will respect you. They will follow you. This reliability does not mean you never change your mind. It means that even when you change, you communicate it clearly, firmly, and with purpose. It means that people can count on your voice to guide them, not confuse them. Now consider the role of energy in your communication. Too often people speak with flat tones, lifeless delivery, voices that sound like they are half asleep. Such voices may be clear, but they will never inspire. Inspiration requires energy. Not reckless energy, not screaming, but alive energy. Your voice must carry belief. It must carry conviction. It must show people that you care. If your words sound dead, people will not feel them. And if they don't feel them, they will not move. This is where presence and passion intersect. Presence gives your voice weight. Passion gives your voice fire. Combine the two and your words become unforgettable. People don't just remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel. They remember the moment. They remember the shift inside them. And that is the ultimate measure of leadership communication. Not whether people heard you, but whether they were changed by what you said. To develop this kind of voice, you must also refine your listening. Communication is not one-directional. If you speak endlessly without listening, your words will eventually lose power. People trust voices that first listen, then respond. Listening allows you to shape your message with precision. It shows respect. It gives you insight into what matters most to your audience. And when people feel heard, they are more willing to hear you. Listening sharpens your words because it shows you what words are needed. A leader who listens deeply speaks powerfully. Feedback is another hidden key. Most people never actually listen to their own voice. They have no idea how they sound. They speak out of habit, unaware of their tone, their speed, their clarity. But if you take the time to record yourself, to replay, to notice your habits, you gain awareness. And awareness is the first step toward control. Do you rush? Do you use filler words? Do you sound flat? Do you ramble? The more you become aware, the more you can refine. Improvement in your voice does not happen by chance. It happens by intentional practice. Practice in communication is not about memorizing scripts. It is about training habits. Practicing slowing down, practicing pausing, practicing stripping away filler words, practicing tone that matches the message, practicing breathing steadily, practicing looking people in the eye as you speak. These are not dramatic changes, but small, repeated refinements. Over time, they transform your voice into something powerful. You do not need to practice until you are perfect. You need to practice until steadiness becomes natural. Another truth worth remembering is this: your words must align with your life. If your voice says one thing but your actions show another, people will stop believing you. You cannot fake leadership communication. You cannot talk like a leader but live like a follower. People see through the act. They trust voices that reflect integrity. When your behavior matches your message, your words gain natural power. You don't have to try to sound confident. You are confident because you live in alignment. Your words are not just words. They are reflections of your choices, your values, your example. This alignment gives your voice authority. Authority is not about titles or positions. It is not about being the boss. True authority is when people listen to you because they respect who you are, not just the role you hold. That authority is built through consistency, integrity, and clarity. And once your voice carries authority, you don't have to force people to listen. They listen willingly because they know your words matter. In every moment, ask yourself, am I speaking to impress, or am I speaking to impact? That one question can change everything. Speaking to impress is about ego. Speaking to impact is about purpose. Leaders always choose purpose. They do not waste words trying to look smart. They use words to move people forward. They do not flood conversations with endless information. They deliver the right message with precision. They do not fear silence. They let it amplify their words. That is the difference. When you understand this, you begin to treat your voice like a tool, not a toy. A tool you sharpen, you care for, you use with intention. And the more you refine it, the more powerful it becomes. Your voice becomes not just something you use to communicate, but something you use to build, to guide, to lead. People begin to recognize it. They begin to trust it. They begin to follow it, not because you demanded their attention, but because you earned it. Your voice is not just sound. It is identity. Every time you speak, people are forming impressions of who you are. They are judging your confidence, your clarity, your authority, and your emotional state all within seconds. Most people do not realize this, but your voice communicates even before your words do. A shaky tone tells people you are unsure. A rushed delivery tells people you are nervous. A monotone tells people you are uninterested. But a steady, clear, and alive voice tells people you are present. You are certain, and you are worth listening to. That is why you cannot neglect your voice. You can have brilliant ideas, strong skills, and noble intentions. But if your voice betrays insecurity, the world will never hear you. Opportunities will pass you by, not because you are unqualified, but because your communication did not carry weight. This is the hidden reason so many capable people stay invisible. They do not lack intelligence. They lack voice presence. Presence is not a gift for a few. It is a skill for all. And like all skills, it is built through awareness and practice. The first step is awareness, noticing how you currently sound. Too many live unaware of their vocal habits. They don't know that they speak too softly, that they rush, that their tone rises at the end of every sentence as if asking for permission. But once you notice, you can change. And once you begin changing, your presence grows. The second step is practice, deliberate, repeated refinement. Think of athletes. They don't train once and expect mastery. They train daily, repeating the fundamentals until excellence becomes second nature. Your voice demands the same. You practice slowing down. You practice pausing. You practice breathing. You practice lowering your tone at the end of strong statements to show certainty. With each repetition, your presence strengthens. But beyond mechanics lies mindset. If you see yourself as small, your voice will sound small. If you see yourself as weak, your voice will sound weak. People feel your self-perception through your sound. That is why confidence is not just about faking a strong voice. It is about building a strong identity inside. When you believe in yourself, your voice naturally reflects it. When you respect yourself, your tone demands respect. The outer voice mirrors the inner voice. That is why leadership communication begins within. Think about the leaders who shaped history. They were not always the most educated. They were not always the richest. They were not always born into privilege. But they had voices that carried conviction. They spoke in a way that made people believe. They carried the sound of certainty even in times of chaos. And because they believed, others believed. This is the contagious nature of a leader's voice. It transfers belief. When you believe in your message deeply, your audience cannot help but feel it too. But conviction alone is not enough. Conviction without clarity creates noise. Some people are passionate but unclear. They talk endlessly, but no one remembers what they said. That is because clarity is what turns passion into direction. To be clear, you must simplify. Cut away unnecessary words. Remove jargon. Speak directly. A leader does not hide behind complexity. A leader makes the complex simple, and simplicity is what gives your voice power. People follow what they understand. Clarity is also about structure. The human mind struggles with scattered ideas. If your words jump in every direction, your listeners will get lost. But if you structure your message, if you guide them step by step, they stay with you. They not only hear you, they follow you. Communication without structure is like a road without signs. People wander aimlessly. Communication with structure is like a map. People know where they are going. A leader always gives direction through structure. Your tone also plays a role in clarity. Imagine delivering important instructions in a flat monotone. The message may be correct, but people will not take it seriously. Tone emphasizes meaning. It signals importance. It shows people where to focus. If everything you say sounds the same, nothing stands out. But when you use variation, lowering your tone for authority, raising it slightly for passion, softening it for empathy, you guide the listener's attention. Your tone becomes the underline, the bold, the exclamation mark of your words. Empathy in your voice is another hidden strength. People do not only want leaders who are strong. They want leaders who are human. A voice that is all command and no compassion may achieve compliance, but it will never create loyalty. Loyalty comes when people feel seen, understood, valued. Empathy is not weakness. It is strength expressed with care, and your voice can carry that care. A softer tone at the right moment, a pause to let someone's pain be acknowledged, a steady reassurance during fear. These are small choices that make your voice not only powerful but healing. Healing is a forgotten role of leadership. Words can wound, but they can also repair. A careless sentence can crush someone's confidence. A thoughtful phrase can restore it. A harsh tone can make people retreat. A gentle one can bring them closer. Leaders who understand this treat their voice as medicine. They do not throw words recklessly. They use them with precision, knowing that people carry their words long after the moment has passed. And here is a truth that separates ordinary communicators from extraordinary ones. Your voice should not just inform the mind, it should ignite the spirit. Information is everywhere. Anyone can Google facts. But what people hunger for is inspiration. They want voices that lift them, that remind them of their strength, that awaken courage, that stir action. Information fills the mind, but inspiration moves the heart. A leader's voice must do both. But inspiration is not achieved by copying motivational cliches. Inspiration comes from authenticity. When you speak your truth, when you share real stories, when your words carry sincerity, people feel it. They don't need you to sound perfect. They need you to sound real. Authenticity is magnetic. People lean into voices that are genuine because in a world full of noise and performance, realness is rare. Be that rarity. Let your voice carry truth. Truth, however, requires courage. There will be moments when speaking truth is not popular, when silence would be easier. But a leader does not choose comfort over responsibility. A leader speaks what must be spoken, even if the room resists. That courage gives your voice strength beyond volume. Volume may capture ears, but courage captures respect. People may disagree with you, but they will respect your willingness to stand firm. And respect is the foundation of influence. Influence is not built in one speech, one conversation, or one meeting. It is built over time, through consistent communication. Every interaction you have is a chance to either strengthen or weaken your influence. That is why you must treat daily communication with the same seriousness as major speeches. How you greet someone in the hallway matters. How you respond under stress matters. How you give feedback matters. Your influence is not only in grand moments, it is in the accumulation of small ones. This is why discipline is non-negotiable. You cannot afford to let your voice wander carelessly. You cannot let stress turn it sharp, or boredom make it flat, or fear make it timid. You must discipline yourself to stay steady regardless of circumstance. This does not mean you sound robotic. It means you sound reliable. People know what to expect from you. Steadiness, clarity, conviction, care. That consistency is what builds trust. Trust is the currency of leadership. Without it, no amount of talent, intelligence, or strategy matters. People will not follow someone they do not trust. And trust is communicated less by what you say and more by how you say it. Your voice must match your values. Your tone must match your message. Your presence must match your promises. When your voice is consistent with your character, trust is automatic. Once trust is established, your words gain leverage. They carry more weight. People not only hear you but take your words seriously. That is why careless voices lose influence. They may speak often, but no one acts. Their words float away like air. But trusted voices, even when they speak briefly, leave impact. One sentence from a trusted leader can shift the direction of an entire group. That is the power of a trusted voice. Remember this always. Your voice is not just sound waves. It is leadership in motion. It is confidence in vibration. It is presence carried through air. It is the invisible force that either builds people up or breaks them down. And once you recognize this, you stop treating communication casually. You start treating it as one of your most powerful assets, because it is. You must also prepare your voice for the long journey. Leadership is not a short race. It is a marathon, and a marathon requires endurance. If you rely only on bursts of passion, you will burn out. But if you cultivate a voice of steadiness, discipline, and care, you will last. You will not just inspire people once. You will inspire them consistently over years. And that consistency is what creates legacy. Legacy is not built by those who shout the loudest. It is built by those whose voices echo longest. The leaders we remember are not those who spoke endlessly, but those whose words still live inside us today. Their voice became part of history not because of volume, but because of meaning. And meaning is created by clarity, conviction, authenticity, empathy, and courage repeated over time. That is the formula. That is the path. So train your voice. Refine it daily. Use it with intention. Speak less to impress and more to impact. Remember that your voice is not a tool for ego, but a channel for service. And when you serve with your voice, when you guide with steadiness, when you inspire with authenticity, when you lead with conviction, your words will outlive you. People may forget your name, but they will not forget the feeling your voice gave them. Your voice is more than a sound. It is an atmosphere. The way you speak changes the energy in the room. Walk into a space where people are tense, anxious, or scattered, and your voice can either add to the chaos or bring calm. The leader is the one whose voice sets the tone. If you panic, others panic. If you steady yourself, others steady themselves. People are emotional mirrors, and your voice is the trigger that decides what reflection they give back. This is why leadership communication is never about you alone. It is about the collective energy you create. You may feel fear inside, but if you allow that fear to leak into your tone, you will multiply it in others. But if you anchor your breath, lower your tone, and speak with certainty, You will transform not only yourself but the entire group. That is the invisible ripple effect of a leader's voice. A strong voice is not just loud, it is clear. Loudness can demand attention for a moment, but clarity sustains it. When people do not have to guess at your meaning, when your words are simple and direct, they trust you. Clarity removes confusion. Confusion creates hesitation, and hesitation kills momentum. The clearer your voice, the faster people move with you. A leader who speaks in fog will lead people into fog. A leader who speaks in light will lead people into light. But clarity is not only about simplicity of words, it is also about simplicity of intention. If your voice is driven by hidden motives, by ego, by manipulation, people will sense it. They may not be able to explain it, but they will feel the lack of honesty. Hidden motives create hidden resistance. But when your intention is pure, when you speak because you truly want to guide, support, and uplift, your voice carries a different quality. People sense that honesty. They lean in. They open up. Intention cannot be faked. It vibrates through your tone. Your voice must also learn flexibility. Too many believe that leadership communication means sounding the same in every situation. But leadership is context. You do not speak to a grieving friend the same way you speak to a fired-up team. You do not speak to children the same way you speak to executives. Flexibility does not mean inauthenticity. It means adjusting your delivery so that your message actually lands. A rigid communicator may be consistent, but they are ineffective. A flexible communicator adapts without losing authenticity. Flexibility is built through empathy. When you can sense the emotional state of others, you know how to shape your tone. You slow down for those who are overwhelmed. You energize those who are discouraged. You soften for those who are hurting. You firm up for those who are careless. Flexibility allows your voice to meet people where they are and then lift them higher. A leader who ignores context speaks into walls. A leader who adapts speaks into hearts. But never mistake flexibility for weakness. Weakness is when your tone bends to please everyone. When you dilute truth to avoid discomfort. Flexibility is when your tone bends to serve understanding without compromising truth. The difference is intention. Weakness seeks approval. Flexibility seeks impact. Leaders must choose impact every time. Another layer of your voice is rhythm. Communication is like music. If your delivery is monotonous, you sound like a flat note. People may hear you, but they will not feel you. But when your speech has rhythm, when it flows with rises and falls, pauses and emphasis, it becomes alive. It captures attention. It lingers in memory. Rhythm is what makes words not only understood but remembered. Think of the great speeches of history. They were not robotic. They were not rushed. They were rhythmic. The speaker controlled pace like a conductor controls music. They slowed down for gravity. They sped up for momentum. They paused for impact. They emphasized with tone. That rhythm is not accidental. It is crafted. It is trained. And when mastered, it gives your voice an irresistible pull. The human brain is wired for rhythm. That is why songs stay with us long after lectures fade. Rhythm bypasses logic and imprints on memory. A leader who speaks with rhythm embeds their words into the hearts of listeners. They do not just communicate. They resonate. Resonance is the highest level of communication. When your voice resonates, it does not only travel through ears, it travels through emotions, through identity, through spirit. Resonance is when people feel, this is not just information. This is truth. This is me. This matters. And once your voice resonates, it cannot be forgotten. People may forget the details of what you said, but they will not forget the feeling. To achieve resonance, your words must come from alignment. Alignment between your message and your belief. Alignment between your tone and your intention. Alignment between your outer voice and your inner voice. When all align, resonance occurs naturally. When they do not, people feel the dissonance. They may not know why, but something feels off. Your words lack weight. Resonance is not technique. It is integrity expressed through sound. And here lies another secret. Leadership voice is less about performance and more about congruence. Too many chase techniques, how to move hands, how to project, how to vary tone. Techniques are useful, but they are secondary. If you do not believe in yourself, no technique will save you. If you do not align your life with your words, no amount of delivery training will hide the hypocrisy. Congruence is the true source of power. Techniques only amplify what already exists. That is why inner work is essential. If your inner dialogue is negative, if you constantly doubt yourself, your voice will carry that doubt. You cannot hide it. People hear hesitation in milliseconds. They hear it in the tremble of your words, in the rising pitch of uncertainty. But if your inner dialogue is steady, if you have trained your mind to be calm and clear, your voice carries that calmness. You don't even have to try. It is automatic. The outer voice is always the echo of the inner one. Therefore, training your voice begins not in the mouth but in the mind. Replace self-doubt with discipline. Replace confusion with clarity. Replace fear with focus. Speak to yourself the way you want to speak to others. If your inner voice is chaotic, your outer voice will scatter. If your inner voice is strong, your outer voice will command. This is why self-mastery is the foundation of communication mastery. Once you master yourself, your voice becomes a gift you give others. A gift of guidance, a gift of stability, a gift of courage. Your words become not about showcasing you, but about serving them. You begin to see communication not as performance, but as responsibility. You realize that every time you speak, you are shaping minds, shifting emotions, directing energy. That realization makes you speak with greater care, greater presence, greater purpose. Responsibility is the mark of maturity. Immature voices speak without considering impact. They vent, they complain, they gossip, they lash out. Mature voices measure their impact. They ask, will these words build or break? Will this tone heal or harm? Will this message guide or confuse? That self-check separates leaders from talkers. Leaders speak to lift. Talkers speak to release. And the world has enough talkers. It needs more leaders. Leaders understand timing. They know when to speak and when to stay silent. Silence is not weakness. It is strategy. Sometimes the greatest leadership is holding space without filling it with noise. People often rush to fill silence because they are uncomfortable with it. But silence can create weight. It can make others reflect. It can give your words more room to breathe. When used wisely, silence speaks louder than speech. But when the moment comes to speak, leaders do not hesitate. They do not drown in overthinking. They step in with clarity, with steadiness, with courage. They understand that leadership is not about always saying the perfect thing. It is about saying the necessary thing, at the necessary time, with the necessary conviction. Perfection is not the goal. Presence is. Your voice over time becomes your reputation. Long before people read your resume, they remember how you spoke to them. Long before they trust your skills, they trust your tone. A single careless outburst can destroy months of credibility. A single thoughtful word can repair years of doubt. That is the weight of your voice. And when you accept this weight, you stop wasting it. You stop throwing words around recklessly. You begin to treat every conversation as an opportunity to build, not to break. This discipline does not make you stiff. It makes you intentional. You still laugh. You still connect. You still show emotion, but you show it with awareness. You know that your words are not just sounds. They are seeds. And seeds grow. into trust, into doubt, into hope, into fear. Every seed you plant matters. Leaders plant carefully. Over time, this careful planting creates gardens of loyalty, forests of respect, landscapes of influence. Your voice shapes culture. It shapes relationships. It shapes futures. Do not underestimate this. The world has been built and destroyed by voices. Wars have started with words. Peace has begun with words. Revolutions have risen with words. And everyday lives are lifted or crushed by the voices closest to them. That is how powerful your voice is. And once you live with that awareness, you will never again treat your voice lightly. You will refine it. You will guard it. You will discipline it. You will honor it. And in return, your voice will open doors you never imagined. It will carry you into rooms where influence is born. It will create bonds with people you thought unreachable. It will make your presence felt long after you leave. That is the reward of mastering your voice. If people cannot feel your words, they will never truly follow your voice. That truth sits at the heart of communication, and once you understand it, everything changes. Most people speak for the sake of being heard. They raise their volume, they increase their speed, they throw words into the air, hoping someone will catch them. But leaders communicate differently. Leaders do not speak simply to fill the silence. Leaders speak to be remembered. Their goal is not noise but impact, not attention but influence. And the difference between the two is not in how loud they are or how dramatic they sound. The difference lies in precision, in clarity, in strength, and in timing. A leader's words carry weight because they are chosen carefully, delivered intentionally, and backed by conviction. If your voice is not respected, your ideas will not matter, no matter how good they are. If your words lack strength, your presence will fail to inspire. Respect is not earned by shouting. It is earned by speaking in such a way that people cannot help but take notice. The truth is, the world does not reward noise. The world rewards clarity. It rewards steadiness. It rewards the voice that cuts through confusion and speaks directly to the heart and the mind. You do not need big, complicated words to achieve this. You do not need to impress anyone with fancy vocabulary. What you need are strong words, words that are simple, sharp, and filled with meaning. The ability to speak less but say more is what separates leaders from followers. The world is full of people who talk endlessly but say nothing. But those who learn to talk better, not longer, become the ones who guide others, inspire action, and leave legacies behind. When you begin this journey of finding your voice, you realize quickly that leadership in communication does not start someday in the future. It begins now in your everyday conversations, in the way you handle pressure, in the way you speak when others are unsure. Communication is not only a skill for special occasions. It is the constant practice of speaking with intent, of guiding with words, of leading with presence. And if your words do not lead, nothing else will. You may work hard. You may dream big. You may even achieve certain successes. But without the ability to speak in a way that others feel and follow, your influence will always remain limited. That is why finding your voice, strengthening it, and shaping it into a tool of leadership is one of the most important investments you can make in yourself. Responsibility is the mark of maturity. Immature voices speak without considering impact. They vent, they complain, they gossip, they lash out. Mature voices measure their impact. They ask, will these words build or break? Will this tone heal or harm? Will this message guide or confuse? That self-check separates leaders from talkers. Leaders speak to lift. Talkers speak to release. And the world has enough talkers. It needs more leaders. Leaders understand timing. They know when to speak and when to stay silent. Silence is not weakness. It is strategy. Sometimes the greatest leadership is holding space without filling it with noise. People often rush to fill silence because they are uncomfortable with it. But silence can create weight. It can make others reflect. It can give your words more room to breathe. When used wisely, silence speaks louder than speech. But when the moment comes to speak, leaders do not hesitate. They do not drown in overthinking. They step in with clarity, with steadiness, with courage. They understand that leadership is not about always saying the perfect thing. It is about saying the necessary thing, at the necessary time, with the necessary conviction. Perfection is not the goal. Presence is. Your voice over time becomes your reputation. Long before people read your resume, they remember how you spoke to them. Long before they trust your skills, they trust your tone. A single careless outburst can destroy months of credibility. A single thoughtful word can repair years of doubt. That is the weight of your voice. And when you accept this weight, you stop wasting it. You stop throwing words around recklessly. You begin to treat every conversation as an opportunity to build, not to break. This discipline does not make you stiff. It makes you intentional. You still laugh. You still connect. You still show emotion, but you show it with awareness. You know that your words are not just sounds. They are seeds. And seeds grow into trust, into doubt, into hope, into fear. Every seed you plant matters. Leaders plant carefully. Over time, this careful planting creates gardens of loyalty, forests of respect, landscapes of influence. Your voice shapes culture. It shapes relationships. It shapes futures. Do not underestimate this. The world has been built and destroyed by voices. Wars have started with words. Peace has begun with words. Revolutions have risen with words. And everyday lives are lifted or crushed by the voices closest to them. That is how powerful your voice is. And once you live with that awareness, you will never again treat your voice lightly. You will refine it. You will guard it. You will discipline it. You will honor it. And in return, your voice will open doors you never imagined. It will carry you into rooms where influence is born. It will create bonds with people you thought unreachable. It will make your presence felt long after you leave. That is the reward of mastering your voice.